In every generation, a rare few rise, not just to lead companies, but to shape entire industries. Not just teams, but movements. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Leaders East Africa, where vision meets courage and strategy sparks transformation. Hosted by Uganda's leading business journalist, Muhereza Kyamutetera. This is your front row seat to the minds reshaping the future of African business.
Hello viewers, listeners, wherever you are. My name is Muhereza Kyamutetera. I'm your host today on the League of the Extraordinary Leaders East Africa, which is a podcast of the CEO East Africa magazine, where we seek to look at some of the most extraordinary leaders of our times, and in the hope that when they tell their story, there will be something to learn for the upcoming leaders and even those who are still in the leadership position, because at the end of the day, these are different leaders who are in different realms, and we believe there's everything to share. And I'm proud, as we start our podcast, to present to you a gentleman that we all know, Mr. Fabian Kasi, who has been the CEO of Centenary Bank since 2010. And I must say I've been proud to follow and tell his story as he's grown the brand along the times. And for me, it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to be able to open our podcast with him. Thank you very much, Mr. Kasi, for offering us this opportunity to tell your story.
No, thank you, Cham. Greetings to everybody.
Yes,
that is, tuned in.
Okay, great. So I think to start with, maybe before we get all these different titles and everything, because I don't think you were born on the 15th floor.
No.
Maybe let's first get to understand Mr. Kasi, the person. How would you love to look at yourself, when all this is not around?
Well, I always want to view myself as somebody who is out there to help others, somebody who is out there to accomplish, whatever is set out to be accomplished. If it means leading, if it means working on tasks, quite a lot of interest to ensure that they are accomplished as expected. And irrespective of, whatever title, irrespective of, wherever you may be coming from, for me, that is my ultimate goal.
Okay. And maybe also let's look at your childhood, where you were born, growing up as a child, and what you wanted to be, maybe going through high school. How was it for you?
Well, I was born in a village in Matuga, along Bombo Road,
okay.
About 58 or 59 years ago. Of course, at that time, like any young growing up person, you don't know what you will be. But I remember we were always excited about going to school. And of course, our parents were kind enough to ensure that we go to school. So we went to school. And for me, school was very good because I used to top the class every term, every year, until P6 when I became the third, which infuriated my father so much because he was used to always, being the first. But of course, that gave me, more passion, more impetus to keep, working, learning. And in the process, it helped to develop the kind of discipline and standards that, we've been able to live to up to today.
Okay. And going to SMAC, Makere, did that shape you in any way? You think it has had a contribution to the leader that you are today?
Absolutely. Every stage of learning that you go to, and indeed where I went to, it was always an improvement, a remarkable improvement. Of course, as I told you, my primary school was in Matuga Primary School, a third world school at that time. But I was able to qualify to go and join St. Mary's College Kisubi. That was in 1982. At SMAC, I was there for 6 years. And I did specialized in at that time, if you wanted to do BCom or business at that time, you would specialize in MEG. You would do a combination of MEG, mathematics, economics, and geography. But for me, because I liked French, I replaced geography with French, which was a unique combination. And everybody, was wondering whether, it would be successful because geography was weighting 2, whereas French was weighting 1. The weight for geography was 2. So if you got a B was a 5. It would be times 2.
Okay.
And that would add up to your marks that would take you to the university. But French, it was only 1. Fortunately, I did them well. I was with a few other colleagues with whom we did that unique course. And I qualified to go on government scholarship to do BCom at the university, Makerere University, which I did and completed with a first class honors degree in BCom, and after which I started working at Bank of Uganda, but after 2 years I got a scholarship to go to Australia to do a master's in business administration, the University of Newcastle. So came back and continued with my work. I qualified as a chartered accountant. I'm now a fellow chartered accountant of the UK and also a CPA of Uganda. So that has been my education life. And as I said, every level of training, of qualification adds something. And in the process, I think the lesson is learning never ends. You need to keep learning and you need to be teachable. However much you may be knowing, there will always be things to learn. And in the process, that's why how you continue adding value to yourself and being relevant in the changing world.
Okay. Do you still speak some French or you've since forgotten?
Oui, je parle un peu de français. Je prends longtemps à le parler quelquefois, mais j'essaie toujours.
Oui, merci. I can only speak like about 15 words of French. Okay, great. That's very interesting. And maybe just, how was it those days getting jobs? When you finished university, was it hard or...
You know, at that time we had only one university, Makerere University. In BCom, for example, we had 80 students. That's what the whole country was going to have as people who have done business. And in accounting, the specialization of accounting, we were 21. You can imagine if the country was looking to getting accountants, there was only 21 that were available. So jobs would be available. You know, when we finished, there were jobs in the ministries, there were jobs in the private sector. In fact, I started working with the Deloitte & Touche, an auditing firm, where I worked for only 2 weeks. Then I was called to go to Bank of Uganda to take up my job. Because Bank of Uganda was more prestigious, so I had to take up that one. So jobs were available, we were lucky. When you look at today, you know, where we have a lot of universities, a lot of, candidates that are being churned out, graduates, it is a challenge. And in the process, unfortunately, jobs haven't grown at the same rate at which, university products have been growing. So now it is a challenge to ensure that when you get out of university, you not only think of being employed, you need to think of how do you create a job, how do you get to, do many things, which probably wasn't the case by then when we finished university. So we were lucky.
How was it like those days with I'm sure if there were any computers, there were very few,
There were no computers.
And then I just want to get an idea of how life was then and how some of you managed to go through the transition eventually. Because I can see you're technically savvy and you've been leading the digital revolution at the bank. I just want to get some insights of, how you've been able to, to keep up with the times.
When we finished university, we had never seen or touched a keyboard of a computer or anything. As soon as we finished, I think that's where they started computers to come in. And I remember at Bank of Uganda, all of us were taken out. I think it was, there was a company which was training in use of computers. So we went out to train to use computers, the DOS, all those things and so on. Again, as I said, you need to be teachable. You need to be yearning to get knowledge because when the computers came at the Bank of Uganda, I became the in charge of the computer room. Yet I hadn't started the computing or computers. And in the process, we've come learning. We've started learning as computers evolve. At that time, there were huge frames of, but now we have laptops, iPads, very small, but doing quite a lot, processing data at a faster speed. We are now talking of AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, all this, the evolution that has come as far as computing is concerned. And the key thing is to ensure that you put up with those changing, standards of computing for you to be able to continue to be relevant and be able to be efficient. Because now without the computers, you can't do things efficiently. So there has been quite tremendous evolution as far as computing is concerned. And as I said, the critical thing is to ensure that you keep up with the standards and learn and adopt and be adaptable.
From the central bank, you've been through different other organizations. Maybe are there any key highlights that stand out for you in those organizations, and maybe to the extent that they shaped you to become the leader that you are today?
Well, I thank all my previous employers because they gave me an opportunity to develop, to learn, and take on new responsibilities and roles. If I look at Bank of Uganda, for example, this is where we started the formal employment, getting exposed. It is where I got an opportunity to go out and add on my education to get an MBA. From there, I joined BAT briefly as an auditor, where I worked as a regional auditor. Again, further training, further learning, and further sharing. From there, I went to Finca. At that time, it was a microfinance institution, and I joined them as a finance manager. And that's where I started having the managerial skills, getting to learn how to manage. Before I could last long there, I got a job to go and work in Rwanda, in the Banque Commerciale du Rwanda, which is the commercial bank of Rwanda. Currently, I think it's called the I&M. Of course, there again, it was a whole set of experience, getting to learn to work in a foreign country, different cultures. In meetings, for example, it was either Kinyarwanda or French. I didn't know Kinyarwanda, so I could employ the little French that I knew, as I tried also to understand a few. It was also some added experience. Of course, from there, then I had to come back to Uganda to take up leadership at Finca, Uganda, MDI Limited, and that was the time when Finca was transforming into a licensed microfinance institution. So I was the CEO then, a role which I did for 8 years before I joined the Centenary, where I've been for the last 15 years.
Okay. And maybe talking about how you got to join Centenary Bank, and I'm sure there are viewers out there who are wondering, how do you start positioning yourself for such a role? Where do you pick the energy? Because I'm sure from Finca, Centenary Bank was such a big leap, because even then I'm sure at the time Centenary Bank was still among the top 5. Where do you get the motivation to say, okay, now I think I can do this, and you enter, you put in your application and get the job? How was the journey like for you?
Of course, as you put it, Finca was much smaller than Centenary Bank. At Finca, I think we had about 200 or 300 staff. Centenary, I think, was almost 1,000. Centenary had 37 branches. Finca had, I think we had about 15, but much, smaller, branches. So if you were to analyze it, it was a big leap, to get out of Finca MDI and come and manage a commercial, microfinance bank. So I want, of course, to acknowledge the courage of the board that gave me that role. They were brave to experiment with me, and fortunately, I hope I haven't let them down. But as you said, where do you get the courage? How do you ensure that you step up for a bigger role? I think the most important thing is preparedness. You have to prepare yourself, and that's why I thank my previous employers. Especially when I was at Finca, that's where I learned a lot more of management skills, a lot more of how you need to focus on execution, a lot more on how to manage people, a lot more on how to manage various stakeholders. Because at Finca we had, it is a foreign organization, we had bosses in Washington, at the region, in Africa, but all those had to be managed on top of many other, stakeholders. So I knew I was ready, I was prepared, much as I'd been playing in a smaller field, but I knew I could play in a bigger field, given the kind of skills and the level of preparedness I felt I had. So it is important to keep preparing yourself all the time for bigger roles. Things like reading, things like working out things, addressing audiences. I always joke with my team and I say, if you come to a meeting and you leave without saying a single word, you know, you are doing an injustice to yourself, because at the end of the day, you are not putting yourself in a position to learn. Always be able to step up and be visible, so that when you know, responsibilities arise, somebody will be able to, you know, give it to you, rather than always sitting back and thinking that you don't know much, you are not fit, you are small, you know, things you won't be able to manage. You know, you need to feel, you know, that courage. You need to feel ready and have the passion to get forward. And those are the things that made me pick up an application and applied for the job of the MD of Centenary Bank. Well, I thank God, I thank the board. I was able to impress. I answered the questions, and the rest is history. And started working, and here I am, where I've been for the last 15 years.
Okay, and I know the story of Centenary Bank is one of those unique stories. I mean, and of course, especially looking at the time you've been in charge from 2010 up now, I think there's been growth by 8 to 12 times across various fundamentals. And this is a bank that is by and large growing using local resources, local people. For you as a person in the inside story, of course, there is, to a great extent, there's what you played as a person. But what would you say are some of the 3, 4 things or 5 that if you are asked to tell a story, or if somebody was going to study this as a case study, and as I believe they should, that you think have helped this bank to grow?
Well, Centenary Bank always had the potential. It was mainly a question of trying to find a way of unlocking that potential. Fortunately, we did with the rest of the team. So the bank, first of all, is indigenous. It has local, you know, solutions for local problems, and it was meant to address the needs of those previously marginalized, you know, Ugandans, especially those in the rural areas, as far as financial services are concerned. It had a strong foundation from the church. That is a very big strength, a strong foundation from the church. It was founded by the church. And indeed, it was bound to, you know, depend on that foundation to be able to, you know, move forward. And indeed, it did. Of course, it had customers. You know, there were not many at that time, but they were there. And not only customers, but loyal customers. Customers who believed in what the bank was doing for them. So it was a question of trying to ensure that we strengthen their trust in the bank. We do give products and services that respond to their needs, and in the process the whole potential was unlocked, and that's how we've been able to grow, you know, as a bank. By the time I joined, I think we had about probably 1 million customers. Now we have over 3 million customers. We had a loan portfolio of about 350 billion that had been given out to the customers. As we speak, we have over 4 trillion that is outstanding. We had about 700 billion in form of deposits, you know, money that people are keeping with the bank. But as we speak now, we have over 5.5 trillion. So all those numbers have grown over time, and many things have come through. At that time, possibly we had two channels of distribution. Mainly the branches, we had 37 of them. Now we have 82 of them and still growing. And ATMs, automated teller machines. We now have over almost 230 ATM network, which is the biggest in the country. But now we've also been able to develop other channels of distribution. We have over 8,000 agents. A channel that has been introduced and serving over 50% of the transactions that we do are now going through agents. And now we have the mobile banking platform. Over 1 million people are connected to that platform, being able to be served, you know, seamlessly, conveniently, wherever they may be in their comfort, and so without necessarily looking for our branches. So we believe those have been key achievements, and we continue to build on them to ensure that we continue to serve as many Ugandans as possible. Of course, the bank has also grown into a group. We now have a holding company, which is a group that now holds the bank. It is holding a technology company, Centetech, so that all the technology we use, because we've realized it is important to harness technology, and therefore having in-house team that whose duty is only to look at technology, we thought it would be very important. Now we have it, and they are developing a lot of technology for the entire family of the Center family, the ecosystem. The holding company is also holding a foundation, which is the one that deals with the social responsibility investments and activities. It is also holding another bank in another country. I think the very first indigenous bank to open to get a branch out of the country, Centenary Malawi, and many other companies are going to be coming up. The whole idea is to try to have an ecosystem which can provide services to our customers, whether insurance, whether technology, whether they are moving out of the country, they can be served. That is basically the vision, and that's why the group was formed. So all that is coming from the Centenary that was started as a rural trust, some stuck somewhere. Now it is on Kampala Road with one of the most magnificent buildings in this country, Mapera, where we are seated, and quite a number of achievements. But as I said, all this is as a result of the trust the customers have given the bank, and we always are very grateful for their patronage, and we don't want to take them for granted. That's why we are always building, digitalizing, improving on services, investing in technology to ensure that we serve their ever changing needs. Of course, we thank our shareholders. They've been very instrumental, and they continue. We have all the 19 dioceses in the country being shareholders locally, but we also have external shareholders who are owning about 30% of the shares of the bank. Of course, the team, when I joined, I found a team in place. I never changed the team at all. All I knew was that we needed to, transform ourselves, and indeed the team transformed into an effective team that has been able to lead the bank to where it is currently. We are now having a staff complement of 3,400. I think the second biggest in this country after Uganda Revenue Authority.
Small army.
So those are some of the achievements, and we look forward to continuing, achieving. But in all this, we know that all those statistics are nothing if there's no impact to the customers that we serve. That's why we always focus on ensuring that there is socio-economic transformation for the people that we serve. Because at the end of the day, if we're here, we are keeping money for the customers, we are giving them loans, but they are not developing, or they are, afflicted with other problems in the community, we are not achieving in Angola. And that's why you see we've been able to partner with Rotary to be able to go out there and sensitize the public about cancer, let them know that they should be testing in good time. If they are found with the traces of cancer, they can begin on treatment. We've been able, through those initiatives and efforts, to put up a cancer ward at Nsambya, which is available now. It is already treating people. We are now in the process of putting up the bunkers. The bunkers is where they put those ingredients that are used for chemotherapy, because it has to be built in a specialized way, and there's quite a lot of money that is needed. And we are still collecting, we are still mobilizing. And on 31st of August, we shall be having a cancer run, the 13th, the 14th one actually. And through these initiatives is how we've been able to mobilize resources to be able to, give back to the community.
I want to take you back to the first day you walked into the bank as the MD. I'm sure you must have, as any human being, you must have had some certain fears. And then also how those fears have transformed and up to now. And I just want to get to understand, how well do you sleep at night, well knowing that you because as a bank you touch millions, because there are the 1 million customers, but then by extension you possibly touch an ecosystem of about 10 million people. How do you sleep well at night knowing that your decisions have a bearing on these lives of people?
Well, on the first day of reporting at the bank, of course, naturally I was nervous. I was coming to a new team, I was coming to a new organization to do new things, although not new in the sense of management, but it was commercial banking as opposed to the kind of things that I was doing in the previous place of work. So I was nervous, but I was strong. I knew I needed to outlive that fear, and the only way I would outlive it is to work hard, is to work with the team, ensure that we communicate to the team very well, the vision and the things that we needed to accomplish, the strategies. And I think we did well to do that communication, and possibly that's why we are where we are, because the team got to understand what we wanted to do, and we all moved together, we worked together to the level where we are. Of course, as you said, the kind of work we do touches many lives, touches many people. I've talked about the 3,400 staff. They have many, families that they also support. I've talked about the 8,000 agents. Though that is employment, they employ many people, and of course they touch many, other extended, groups of people. Of course, our over 3 million customers, when they come and get service from us, if they borrow and their enterprises develop, they also go ahead and touch many. So when we are seated here, we know we are supposed to work hard, because if there is a mistake that is made, if something doesn't go right or goes wrong, we know many people will be affected. But we are comforted by the fact that we have a strong team that is accountable, because I'm here, we have 82 branches, they're all operating, and I'm not worried because we have systems, we have controls, we have various levels of defense, and at any one time, if somebody drops the ball, he will be accountable. That's what matters. So that brings comfort. You can go home, close, and go and sleep, well knowing that everybody is doing what they are doing, and at the end of the day they are accountable, and if something does something wrong, they will have to account and they will be caught, because there's a system that ensures that everybody does what they are supposed to do.
Okay, so is that why you're passionate on the agenda of banking on values? Because then that helps to hold everybody, like for a certain, direction, and then they know they also be held to a certain set of values. Absolutely.
We're a bank that pioneered banking on values in this country, and that we are a member of Global Alliance for Banking on Values. These are banks that focus not only on profits, but on other, we call it the 3 Ps. We focus on the people, and here the people, we talk about the customers, we talk about our staff, how well they are being looked after. We talk about our customers as under people, how are they being transformed, are they getting value from what we are doing, service we are rendering, and so on. And of course, the other thing of focus is the profits. Because at the end of the day, we have to grow, and the only way you grow is when you are making money. But that doesn't mean that you only focus on money, but you have to focus on the other 2 Ps, the people and the planet. Of course, we also focus on governance, comes in squarely, because at the end of the day, if our governance is not proper, whatever you are doing may be successful now, it won't be successful tomorrow. That's why we are able to post the kind of statistics that you've seen over the last 15 years or so. It is because our governance is strong. We have a strong board that does surveillance. Of course, we are regulated by the Bank of Uganda. There are regulations, there are laws that we must conform to, short of which, again, there will always be penalties. We have management that is accountable. We have staff who know what they are supposed to do. And of course, we have the clients that look to us for service. That is the whole value chain of governance that we always have to focus on to ensure that there is proper governance for sustainability.
Okay. And there's you can't talk about these 15 years. We're talking about there must be some lessons that you have picked as a person. Both there are those who could say the normal ones, but then there are also the hard lessons. Maybe those that could have come to you in unexpected ways, but nonetheless there are still lessons. What would you say are some of the key lessons that stand out for you, especially for leaders that lead organizations of such a magnitude?
Well, I think there are many lessons, but some of them are like, it matters less about your title. Even if you are the MD, even if you are the manager, it matters less on your title. What matters is, how are we helping people to accomplish what they are supposed to do? How are you influencing them for success? How are you making them also leaders? That is what has mattered a lot. And when you have a team like this, you put away your title and ensure that you move along with them. And as you put away your title, the other lesson is that humility is very important. As leaders, you must be humble. That's when people will believe in what you want them to do. Otherwise, as they say, before you take somebody's hand, first take his heart. You must have them get to believe that indeed you mean well, you know what you are doing, and you are taking them to the promised land. That is the heart, before you can pull their hands to lead them where they should be going. And that becomes a key lesson. And leading people, it is mainly about winning their hearts. Convincing them that what we are doing is good for them, good for the organization that we work for, it's good for all of us. And once we do it, all of us achieve, all of us, win. It has to be a win-win situation. Of course, the other thing that comes through is there has to be a lot of patience, because people have different characters, different attitudes, different responses to instructions, different aspirations. And to ensure that they all come along, there has to be a lot of patience, a lot of patience, a lot of empathy to ensure that, everybody comes along. Of course, there is this saying that you don't want to continue, flocking a dead horse. There are horses which are dead, so that even if you continue, pushing them to go, they will never go. So you would rather, get off it and get onto another one and proceed. So all those are calls as a manager that you have to make to decide when to abandon somebody, but having, given them a chance with all the patience and empathy. Because managing people is the hardest thing I've experienced in the journey of leadership. And at the end of the day, leadership is about leading others, people. Otherwise, if you say you're a leader and nobody is following you, as they say, you'll be taking a walk in the park, and you won't be taken as a leader. So it is important to see how you can move along with the people, and that's how you can be defined as a leader.
Yeah, of course, like what you mentioned, at the end of the day, this applies different across different organizations, different environments, and different situations. Are there some, what you could say, are your own hacks that you picked and said, okay, this is how I do my thing, this is my survival strategy, this is my routine, this is the way I organize my week? Because I know the day, if you don't pick some of these hacks and execute them consistently, sometimes you could run mad. So I actually call it staying sane in the fast lane. What are there some your own personal hacks that you've learned? For example, when you wake up, how you organize your day, that kind of, to make sure that you're able to remain at top performance, in a top performance mode.
What I've seen is that in life, you need to have a discipline, a standard way of doing things. You can't be working haphazardly. You need to have agreed on your standard way of doing things, and that becomes your discipline. And once you stick to that discipline, you'll always be successful. Well knowing, for example, that every morning you wake up at a certain time. What are the things you do? You pray. After praying, it is going to work. Once you reach work, you begin by ensuring that you've covered everything at your desk. Your emails have been, closed. worked upon. Then, you have meetings. And within those meetings, if you are going to have them, you ought to have prepared, read all the reading materials, knowing what the meeting is all about. It becomes easier. Otherwise, if you just bump into a meeting and you are the chair of that meeting, when you haven't prepared, it will be hard and you won't enjoy it. And that's why I go back to the issue of preparedness. It is very important to be prepared and always getting ready. So the routine is important.
Yeah. Okay. And I know as a person, because I've been watching you and following you over time, away even from just being the CEO of Centenary Bank, you're one person who is passionate about the work you do and how it impacts on the country. Because at the end of the day, we only have one Uganda that we all must grow. If you were to address a room of fellow CEOs that sit in the same place, what are some of the things that you would want to urge them about what we all need to keep doing to push our motherland forward?
Well, my colleagues, other leaders, CEOs, it is important to know that, of course, we get employed to do business for our employers. But at the end of the day, the jobs we do must add value to the communities where we operate, with whom we operate. We must be up there when somebody on the street says there is value that this company is doing for me, even when he has nothing to do with you, even when he's not a shareholder, but you want somebody to go there and say, I appreciate that company. It is doing something for the country. It is doing something for us. You want to be out there where government can say, these guys pay taxes and they pay them on time. These guys are giving jobs to our citizens and they are paying them. These guys are caring about other social, challenges, whether health, whether ensuring that there are few accidents on the road, all those are things that we are supposed to be, engaged in as corporate citizens, for us to be of value, of use to the society in which we operate.
And as a leader, and of course as a Ugandan as well, are there some things that you look at, either the trends generally in the different facets of life, or maybe in the economy, that worry you, that you think need strong or urgent fixing for us to be able to maintain the trajectory?
Well, when you look at our society now, I think we are increasingly seeing decay in morals. And in the process, the young ones are also taking up the same kind of culture. Culture of saying you have to get rich very quickly. Cultures of saying I have to drive the biggest car in town because I see others are also driving it. By the time we started work, we knew there's a process through which you had to go for you to be at a level where you can drive the car you want, where you can build a house. But now the morals are in such a way that people want to get rich quickly by all means, hook or crook, which is very bad. And in the process, it comes back to even us, the employers, the companies that employ these people. That's when we get frauds, because people have come with the idea of how do they get to the money quickly, even if it is not theirs. How do they stage manage a business to lend it money, and then they use that money and that business is not able to pay back. How do they defraud customers and that kind of thing. And we are always battling with the frauds. And of course, for us here at the bank, we have zero tolerance to fraud. If you are caught involved in such a vice, it is automatic dismissal, and possibly if it is criminal, of course we engage police and other government entities to manage, such cases. But still we continue to have fraudsters, either from within or from without, which is, I think, a very dangerous trend. And I think the society needs a reboot of culture, of morals, for us to go back to our only way of looking at things, to be patient, to know we have to work. But of course, that is not to say there are some good people. There are some good people who continue to work. For example, here, there are people who have been here for as long as the bank has been here. The other day, we had a lady who retired having worked for 32 years in this company. So we still have such good people, but we are being infested by, again, those other people who have morals that have decayed, and there is need to continue training people, continue sensitizing people, especially the young ones, to understand, how to be, useful, productive people that earn after working.
I know you've been very passionate about serving society through Rotary, and of course, I remember when we started the cancer run, I used to be at Fireworks. I remember the first campaign, and it's something that you've done consistently. And for me, on a personal level, at some point around 2017, at least I had a chance to benefit from the cancer award because my wife, had to go through that, so which has been a great thing. And picking your own, what inspires you to because you could have chosen to spend your time and your money elsewhere. What inspires you, and maybe are there personal insights or lessons that you picked that you would want to share with the public, maybe to also inspire them to invest more, in doing good? Because at the end of the day, I think they say there's good in doing, in doing good, and doing good is good business. Are there some certain insights that you love to share for the public to be inspired?
Well, we all know that we're on this world for a limited time, and because we are here for a limited time, people will only remember you for what you did for others, but rather than what you had. Nobody will remember you that you were rich, you had a big job, you did all these things. But somebody will be seated back to say, that person helped me. That person added a smile on my face when I was in a challenge. That person helped to ensure that the money gets together to build a cancer ward, which saved my mother, my parent, my relative, and so on. So, and again, when you look back, many of us, if not everybody, we've been given. We've been given. We came to this world with nothing. Of course, we had parents. They were kind enough to take us to school. That was already giving. Of course, some of us parents reached a level where probably they couldn't give as much, but other, well-wishers came in and helped. So in the process, all of us have been a product of generosity. People have been generous to us. If we're a product of generosity, we should also be generous and give back. And that, for me, drives the urge to ensure that let's keep giving back. Let's share whatever we have, because at the end of the day, we are here for a limited time. We must be building things that will last forever, and we must be remembered for something. And the only way we can be remembered is by what we gave, not by what we had.
Okay, that's very, very powerful. Is there any particular mantra or philosophy that drives you, or it's a mix of things?
Well, I think it is a mix of things. The drive behind what we do is mainly the urge to succeed, to deliver, to execute. I feel very bad when I start on something and it is not delivered. So there is that urge to do something very well, execute it, and at the end of the day, have people benefit from what you've done, and they are happy with it. For me, that drives me, in what I embark on doing.
And maybe borrowing from your personal story, and of course, being in this place, you are in a place of wisdom where you see very far, knowing any particular message you love to leave for the upcoming leaders in terms of what they need to be doing to position themselves to get to higher positions of leadership, and what they ought to do to stay there. Because like you mentioned, you led Finca for 8 years, now you're doing 15 years. There's certainly a lot of things that you must be doing right to be able to maintain the leadership positions, regardless of being in a financial, in a place like this. You must be coming under so much pressure from different places, because you could easily have, I'm sure if you wanted to, you have access to resources that you could get in a not so clear way. What message would you love to leave to upcoming leaders?
Well, in leadership, you can't lead if people don't trust you. You need to be trusted. And for you to be trusted, you have to have integrity. You have to, your intentions have to be very clear. You need to have people who appreciate and understand what you are doing and to know that it is benefiting all of them. And at the end of the day, as a leader, you need to keep learning. You need to have knowledge in the things that you do, because that's the only way people will trust you. And at the end of the day, you must produce results. As a leader, you must produce results. Without results, people won't trust you, and therefore they won't follow you, and they won't do what they are, you are supposed to do. So those things are very important, and once you do them consistently, and as I talked about preparedness, then you can aspire for roles, new roles that would come, and you should be ready. You should be visible and appear and to be ready to take them up.
Okay. Great. Maybe I think as we roll, because this is the last question, is there anything that you are so passionate about that you wanted to bring out in this interview? Like we mentioned, this is a podcast called League of Extraordinary Leaders. Is there maybe something that you felt we didn't address that you'd like to bring out?
Well, there are so many things always, and of course, as I said, every stage you get to, you learn. And I think learning is very important. As you learn, and it takes humility. Humility would mean that you are there like you don't know much, and you are ready to learn. And once you do that, you will always be adding value to yourself. You'll always be, putting yourself in a position to be able to address the ever-changing, needs of leadership, because they change. The way you are leading today may not be the way you need to lead tomorrow, because the people you are leading are different. They are changing. We have now the Gen Zs who are becoming a very big part of the society, even in the organizations where we work. If you were leading people who were in your age bracket, now you are leading like 80% who are in a different age bracket. But you must lead them. You need to lead them. So you need to understand them, and learning new things that you need to do, learning the way people look at things so that you also look at them that way. And that way, you'll always be reinventing yourself as a leader, being able to continue to be relevant.
But what has been your experience managing Gen Zs? I've had some varying views from different leaders there. What has been your experience, and how do you marry? I'm sure you in a position where you run like 3 generations. How do you manage them to make sure they tolerate each other?
First of all,
they produce results.
Absolutely. First of all, is to recognize that they are there, to understand what they look at, what they need, what are the things they aspire for, and being able to ensure that you craft the management systems in such a way that they are able to avail those needs to them. If it is being tech savvy, that's what the Gen Zs look at. We design systems to ensure that we've invested in technology, which they can use in a very convenient way for them to be able to deliver. If it means that they are interested in a lot of engagement, doing team building, now we have, for example, aerobics, which they do. They do competitions for them to get engaged. They get into social media and do all sorts of things. Then systems have to be designed in such a way that they speak to those needs, those things that those generations want to have for them to be able to deliver. And in the process, we've been able to come this far.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you very much, Fabian, for spending some time with us and sharing us your leadership journey and the lessons therein. And of course, those of you who are watching, please continue watching, continue sharing this story. And thanks for following us and coming this far. And if you also believe you're a leader, you're watching this, and you believe you have an inspirational story that could inspire the next generation of leaders, do reach out to us and invite us. Let's come and tell your story, because this is the League of Extraordinary Leaders, and we look forward to sharing that story on the next episode. Thank you.